A serious political rift has erupted in Senegal between President Bassirou Diomaye Faye and his Prime Minister Ousmane Sonko. The power struggle centers on control of the ruling Diomaye president coalition.
The political atmosphere in Senegal, a country once celebrated across the continent for its calm democratic traditions, has entered a phase that many citizens never expected so soon after the historic victory of Bassirou Diomaye Faye and Ousmane Sonko. Their partnership, forged in the fires of struggle, united by shared ideals and shaped by a common promise of national transformation, is now showing cracks deep enough to stir anxiety both within Senegal and across the region. For months, their alliance was portrayed as unshakable. To the outside world, they appeared as two leaders reading from the same page, determined to rebuild trust in public institutions, rescue the economy, and set a new model of governance. But in recent weeks, subtle disagreements have evolved into visible tension, and today that tension has matured into a political conflict that even their supporters can no longer ignore. The immediate trigger of the current dispute lies around the leadership of the coalition that brought them to power. President Faye's decision to remove Aïssatou Mbodj, a close ally and confidant of Prime Minister Sonko, from her central role in the coalition coordination ignited a storm that has since grown into something larger. Mbodj was widely seen as one of the key figures responsible for the political machinery that helped both leaders succeed during the last election cycle. Her removal was perceived by many in Sonko's political camp as a calculated act, and the replacement chosen by Faye, Aminata Touré, raised even more eyebrows. Touré is a former prime minister, a veteran political figure, and a personality with her own national influence. Her appointment was interpreted by some analysts as an effort by the president to consolidate power or to reconfigure alliances within the ruling setup. Sonko's party, PASTEF, responded swiftly and firmly. They stated clearly that they do not recognize the dismissal of Mbodj nor the appointment of Touré. To them, the president had overstepped, acting without proper consultation and ignoring the internal structures of the coalition. This sharp statement exposed what had long been whispered in political circles. The president and the prime minister do not always agree on who holds the final authority in matters of coalition strategy and broader political positioning. What began as disagreement over administrative decision-making grew into a deeper debate over legitimacy and power boundaries. Behind the scenes, the dynamic between Faye and Sonko has always been complex. Many observers say Sonko's charisma and nationwide popularity helped carry Faye to the presidency when Sonko himself was barred from running. That created a perception among many of Sonko's supporters that their leader remained the ideological driving force of the government. Meanwhile, Faye, now holding the highest office, carries the constitutional authority to lead the state and chart the country's direction. When these two realities meet, it is inevitable that questions arise about who truly sets the political agenda. The recent conflict over coalition coordination is therefore just a spark that illuminated the deeper contradictions between symbolism and power, influence and authority, loyalty and autonomy. As the disagreement deepened, the Prime Minister made a surprising announcement. He would be taking leave starting early November. Although government officials framed it as a normal period of rest, many commentators believe it was a symbolic gesture reflecting the tension inside the executive branch. The timing raised questions. Why take leave during a political storm? Why now, when the government has critical matters to address, from economic recovery to infrastructure development and international negotiations? Sonko used a cabinet meeting to highlight government achievements, especially progress on water infrastructure. His remarks came across as an attempt to remind the public of his central role in driving key initiatives. To some analysts, this was his way of drawing a political line, indirectly signaling that the government's successes were not the work of one man alone. Public perception is shifting rapidly. Newspapers, radio programs, and citizens across social platforms are openly questioning whether the Senegalese presidency and prime minister's office are still operating in harmony. Discussions often revolve around a central fear: that the dream of a united leadership guiding Senegal through difficult economic terrain could be at risk. The country is negotiating with international lenders, preparing key reforms, and trying to address the economic pressure felt by millions of Senegalese households. A divided leadership could complicate these efforts, weaken investor confidence, and erode the sense of national unity that many hoped would define this new political era. Within Senegal's ruling circles, the tension has also fueled speculation about power realignment. Some believe the president is pushing to assert firm control over political structures to avoid the perception that he is overshadowed by his prime minister. Others argue that Sonko's grassroots supporters are pressuring him to maintain his influence and not allow the presidency to eclipse the movement that carried them both to power. This tug-of-war between institutional authority and political capital is not new in African politics, but in Senegal's context, where stability has long been prized, it raises alarms. Much of the public frustration stems not simply from the disagreement, but from the fear of what it represents. A population that placed great hope in this leadership now watches as internal conflict casts shadows over promises of change. Citizens who once celebrated the unity of Faye and Sonko as a symbol of renewal are expressing disappointment. They expected collaboration, not competition. They hoped for a government where ideas from different corners merge for the national good, not one where political loyalties spark division. Some analysts frame this political conflict as a natural phase in any power-sharing arrangement. They argue that disagreements are normal and even healthy in governance, especially when two powerful figures share responsibilities. But others warn that tensions of this nature, unless addressed quickly, can deepen into fractures that affect policy, legislation, and even national cohesion. The risk is not only political, it is economic and social. Senegal is currently navigating important national challenges, from employment to energy, security to regional diplomacy. A divided leadership can lead to delays, confusion, and slow decision-making, at a moment when agility is critical. The most concerning aspect of the crisis is that it reflects a struggle for control over the political narrative. Both camps want to ensure they remain central to Senegal's future. Both want to strengthen their position ahead of future elections, internal party reforms, and long-term national planning. But while leaders negotiate behind closed doors, ordinary Senegalese citizens bear the consequences of uncertainty. This is where the common fear lies, the fear that political ambition may overshadow the collective mission that originally united the two leaders across the continent. Many Africans admire Senegal's political evolution. It has long been seen as a beacon of democratic stability. The world celebrated its peaceful transfers of power, its active civil society, and its strong institutions. That is why today's tension draws attention not only domestically but also internationally. Regional observers worry that this conflict could spill into parliamentary struggles or administrative paralysis. International partners quietly hope the situation is resolved quickly to maintain predictability in diplomatic and economic engagements. Pan-African commentators express concern about losing yet another example of stable political collaboration in an era where many countries are battling internal crises. However, despite the rising tension, many Senegalese remain hopeful. They believe both leaders understand the weight of their responsibilities. Faye and Sonko came to power with a narrative of unity, sacrifice, and shared vision. Their supporters expect them to rise above individual ambitions and reconnect with the collective purpose that made their victory possible. There are still opportunities for dialogue, mediation, and compromise. The question is whether both men are willing to take the necessary steps before the situation becomes harder to reverse. Behind all the political strategy, power plays, and competing narratives lies a simple truth. Senegal needs stability. The population needs clarity. Civil servants, entrepreneurs, and young people need predictability so they can plan their futures. The government must show that internal disagreements will not disrupt national progress. Citizens want to see an administration focused on development, not division. As the story continues to unfold, Senegal finds itself at a crossroads. The coming weeks will determine whether this misunderstanding will be resolved through dialogue or whether it will grow into a long-term rivalry that transforms the country's political landscape. What makes this moment so important is that it tests the true strength of the ideals that Faye and Sonko claim to represent. Unity is not tested in times of ease, but in moments of conflict. Collaboration matters most when disagreements arise. Leadership is proven not in speeches or promises, but in the ability to navigate moments like this with wisdom and restraint. Senegalese citizens, African observers, and the broader international community are watching closely. Each development carries the potential to redefine the balance of power within the government. Each decision sends a signal about what direction the country intends to take. And each action taken by the president or the prime minister will either build trust or widen the gap that currently separates them. For now, the nation waits, hoping that reason will prevail. Senegal stands at a delicate moment, but it is not without hope. The future will depend on whether its leaders choose cooperation over confrontation, unity over rivalry, and national interest over political maneuvering. The world has seen alliances break over much less, but it has also seen great leaders overcome their differences for the greater good. In the days ahead, the true strength of Senegal's leadership will be revealed.